Upon arriving at the hospital, YN was immediately rushed into the emergency room to be treated by the doctors. Driver, please, sir, try to stay calm. I'm certain Miss YN will be alright, he said, attempting to soothe Taehyung. Taehyung, how can I be calm after seeing my girlfriend covered in blood like that? He replied, his voice thick with frustration. Driver, looking at Taehyung with a deep sense of guilt. I am so sorry, sir. I was too late to notice the car speeding toward her. But sir, I don't think this was just an ordinary accident. I believe the driver hit Miss YN on purpose. Taehyung snapped his head toward the driver, his eyes widening in shock. On purpose. Driver, if it were an accident, they wouldn't have been speeding like that, especially inside a residential complex. Moreover, I didn't hear a single honk as Miss YN was crossing. The driver didn't even tap the brakes after hitting her. If the brakes had failed, they would have crashed into the complex walls because the road is quite narrow. They just kept going. Taehyung fell silent for a moment, his jaw tightening. He reached into his pocket and dialed a number. Taehyung. Hung. Seokjin. Where are you? Jungkook and I have been waiting at the airport forever, he snapped irritably. Jungkook and Seokjin had planned to see Taehyung off at the airport. They had originally offered to pick him up, but Taehyung told them to meet him there as he planned to leave early. Taehyung. Forgive me, Hung. I'm not going to Busan today. YN was in an accident, he whispered, his voice trembling. Seokjin. What? An accident? He shrieked in horror. Jungkook. Wait, YN was hit. How did this happen? Taehyung. You'll understand once you see the CCTV footage from the neighborhood. Please, go to the complex security office right now and get the recordings near my house. We need to find the culprit immediately. Jungkook. Do you mean, someone targeted her? Seokjin. Stop asking questions and let's move. We need to get to the security office before anyone has a chance to tamper with the evidence. Seokjin urged Jungkook. Taehyung, we're going now. We'll call you the moment the files are in our hands. Taehyung. Thank you, Hung. Be careful. He hung up the phone. 20 minutes later, the surgeon emerged from the operating room. Taehyung. Doctor, how is she? Doctor. Smiling reassuringly. Fortunately, her injuries are not life-threatening. Miss YN did lose a significant amount of blood due to a laceration on the back of her head. The scalp is very vascular, so even a small wound can bleed profusely. Luckily, we had enough of her blood type in stock. She is stable now and should regain consciousness in a few hours. Taehyung. Exhaling a long breath of relief. Thank you so much, doctor. Doctor. You're welcome, sir. She will be moved to a private ward shortly. Please settle the administrative paperwork in the meantime. Meanwhile, Seokjin and Jungkook arrived at the neighborhood security office. They requested the footage from an hour ago, but the guard informed them that the cameras near Taehyung's house were undergoing maintenance, nothing had been recorded in that specific area. Undeterred, they rushed to the Central Security Command to request highway and entrance footage. Fortunately, there was a camera positioned right at the main gate of the complex, capturing every vehicle entering and exiting. Jungkook. Call Taehyung Hung. We need a description of the car. Seokjin nodded and quickly dialed Taehyung's number. Taehyung. Hello, Hung. Seokjin. The cameras near your house were down, but we're at the central office now. We have the footage of the main gate. What did the car look like? Taehyung. Hold on. Sir, can you describe the car? Or better yet, did you catch the license plate? He asked his driver. Driver. I didn't catch the plate, but it was a white Kia Grand Sedona. Seokjin. Turning to the CCTV technician. Sir, please track the owner of this white Kia Grand Sedona. This driver hit my sister-in-law and fled the scene. Technician. Understood, sir. Seokjin. Taehyung, we'll take it from here. Don't worry about the culprit, just focus on In's recovery. We'll catch whoever did this. Taehyung. Thank you, Hung. As they focused back on the monitors, Jungkook's phone suddenly vibrated. Jungkook, eyes widening in panic. Hung, it's In's mother. What do I do? Seokjin, sighing. In's phone must be off, and she's worried. We have to tell her the truth. We can't hide her daughter's condition from her. Jungkook answered the call and carefully explained the situation. Upon hearing the news, Mrs. Choi and Jihoon, In's younger brother, were devastated. Jungkook, Iomioni, please stay calm. The doctors have already treated her. If you and Jihoon want to come to Seoul, just let me know. I'll arrange everything, and don't worry about the expenses, my cousin will take care of it. Mrs. Choi, Jungkook did she go back to that man? Jungkook, Iomioni, now isn't the time for that. I'm at the security center right now tracking the person who hit her. Rest assured, we will find them, and they will face the full extent of the law. An hour later, after securing the footage and identifying the culprit, Seokjin and Jungkook hurried to the hospital. When they arrived, they found Taehyung sitting by In's bedside, his eyes red and swollen. Taehyung looked up as the door opened. He gently released In's hand and met them at the entrance. Seokjin, how is she? Taehyung, she's out of the critical zone. The surgery was a success. Seokjin and Jungkook let out a collective sigh of relief. What about the driver, Hung? Did you find them? Seokjin and Jungkook exchanged a tense look. Jungkook, let's talk outside. We don't want to disturb her or cause her stress levels to spike. Taehyung followed them into the hallway, sitting on the waiting bench. Taehyung, well, he asked impatiently. Seokjin, Taehyung the car that hit YN is a new model, purchased only 5 days ago. According to police records, that vehicle is registered under your mother's name. The air left Taehyung's lungs. He felt as if he had been struck. Taehyung, what? He gasped, paralyzed by shock. Jungkook, Hung, you can't let her get away with this anymore. She has to go to prison. This is attempted murder. Taehyung's hands curled into tight fists. His eyes burned with a dark, vengeful fire, and his jaw set in a hard line. Without a word, he stood up and stormed away. Seokjin, Taehyung but Taehyung didn't look back. Seokjin and Jungkook immediately scrambled to follow him. Taehyung drove at breakneck speeds toward his parents' estate, with Seokjin and Jungkook trailing closely behind him. Upon arriving at the residence, Taehyung slammed his car into park and sprinted toward the entrance. However, he skidded to a halt when he noticed the garage was empty, not a single car was in sight. Seokjin, Taehyung the house is deathly quiet. Do you think your mother has already fled? Taehyung's fists clenched at his sides. He was about to turn back to his car when Jungkook's voice stopped him. Jungkook, wait, what is that smell? It's overpowering, he said, instinctively covering his nose. Seokjin, a smell. I don't smell anything. Jungkook, standing nearest to the main entrance, peered toward the door. Hung, it's a pungent stench. It feels like it's coming from inside the house. As Seokjin and Taehyung approached the door, the foul, metallic scent of decay hit them instantly. They both recoiled, covering their faces. Seokjin, Taehyung he's right. It's definitely coming from inside. Taehyung lunged for the handle, but the door was locked tight. He sprinted to the backyard, only to find the rear entrance barred as well. Returning to the front, he began throwing his shoulder against the heavy wood. Jungkook, Hung, let me. Taehyung stepped aside, his chest heaving. With a burst of adrenaline and strength, Jungkook rammed the door. After several violent attempts, the frame finally gave way, and the door swung open. The moment they stepped into the living room, they froze. Dark, crimson stains were splattered across the floor in horrifying amounts. Jungkook knelt to touch a smear, bringing it to his nose. His eyes widened in terror as he looked up at Taehyung. Hung, this is blood. Taehyung went rigid. A cold dread washed over him as he bolted through the house, frantically searching for his mother. He tore through every room until he finally reached the TV lounge. There, he found Mrs. Kim lying on the floor in a gruesome state. Her face was a mass of bruises and her head bore a jagged wound. She lay in a pool of drying blood that had begun to emit a sickening, heavy odor. Taehyung, gasping in horror. "Mom!" he shrieked, his voice breaking. Seokjin and Jungkook stood paralyzed, reeling from the sight. Taehyung scrambled to her side, gathering her limp form into his arms. "Mom! Mom!" he screamed, shaking her body as if he could wake her from the nightmare. Seokjin quickly knelt beside them, pressing his fingers firmly against Mrs. Kim's carotid artery. His entire body stiffened. He looked at Taehyung with a gaze filled with shock and profound pity. "Seokjin, Taehyung, there's no pulse," he whispered, his voice trembling. The color drained from Taehyung's face. He stared at his mother's unresponsive features, his mind refusing to accept the reality. "Mom! Mom!" he wailed, hot tears finally spilling over. "Jungkook, Hung, we have to get her to the hospital, now." Jungkook took charge, lifting Mrs. Kim's body into his arms and sprinting toward the car. Meanwhile, Seokjin grabbed Taehyung, hauling him to his feet and guiding him toward the exit to follow Jungkook. Upon arriving at the hospital, Mrs. Kim was immediately taken in. About 20 minutes later, the doctor emerged from the room and approached Taehyung. "Taehyung, how is my mother?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Doctor, I'm sorry. There was nothing we could do." "Doctor, based on the body temperature and the onset of rigor mortis, I estimate she passed away late last night. The blunt force trauma to the back of her head was severe. She lost a massive amount of blood without immediate medical attention. By the time you found her, she had already been gone for hours." Taehyung collapsed to the floor, his body shaking as silent tears began to stream down his face. "Doctor, judging by the injuries on her body, it appears she was subjected to extreme violence. Given the multiple puncture wounds, we can safely conclude this was an act of homicide." Seokjin and Jungkook closed their eyes tightly, absorbing the horror. Taehyung could do nothing but weep. "Seokjin, Taehyung, Jungkook and I will handle everything. I promise you, we will find whoever did this." It was becoming chillingly clear, the person who murdered Mrs. Kim was the same person who had stolen the Kia Grand Sedona, the same person who had intentionally run over YN. "Seokjin, Taehyung, do we have your consent to perform an autopsy on your mother?" Taehyung remained silent for a moment before giving a slow, hollow nod. "Seokjin, doctor, please proceed with the autopsy." The doctor nodded and hurried away. "Jungkook, go to the police station now. Escort the officers to your aunt's residence and hand over the CCTV footage of that Kia Grand Sedona. We need them to track that car immediately." Jungkook gave a sharp nod and rushed out. Seokjin sat down beside Taehyung, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. Words felt useless, so he simply squeezed Taehyung's shoulder, trying to offer what little comfort he could. "Taehyung, Hung, is it possible that she killed my mother?" he asked, looking up at Seokjin with bloodshot eyes and a face drenched in tears. "Seokjin, that woman, who do you mean?" "Taehyung, Yojin." Seokjin fell silent for a moment, his expression darkening. "I'll find out where she is," he said, before pulling out his phone to make a call. Seokjin ordered his most trusted associates to track Yojin's movements over the last 24 hours. After an hour of waiting, they reported that Yojin had been missing since the previous night. Even her own family was in a panic, unable to find her. Seokjin's suspicion deepened. He called Jungkook to check on the white Kia Grand Sedona. Jungkook confirmed the car had been spotted heading out of the city, and the police were in pursuit. "Seokjin, Was there any other evidence found at Kim's aunt's residence? Jungkook. They found several sharp objects hidden near the flower pots by the side of the house. Forensics is identifying them now, they're looking for fingerprints. Seokjin. Understood. Call me the moment you have more. He hung up the phone. The next day, 8 a.m. Seokjin remained with Taehyung to assist with the funeral arrangements for Kim's aunt. Meanwhile, Jungkook was at the hospital. At 7 a.m., he had picked up Mrs. Choi and Jihoon from the airport and brought them straight to see YN. YN was still unconscious, kept under sedation to ensure her condition remained stable and to prevent her from spiraling into shock. Jihoon. See this. Nuna always ends up suffering because of that man, yet she still chose to go back to the source of all her problems, he said coldly. If she hadn't come to Seoul, she never would have met him again, and she wouldn't be in this state. Jungkook. Stop blaming everyone else. Jungkook snapped, finally losing his patience. YN came to Seoul to work, to provide for you and your mother. She had no idea she would run into Taehyung. And you should know, the past was never his choice. His ex-wife is the root of all this, she's the one who destroyed everything. Jungkook. YN isn't the only victim, Taehyung is too. He had to take responsibility for mistakes that weren't his, and he even lost his father during that massive fallout. His father died of a heart attack back then. And now, Taehyung is suffering again because the woman who ruined his life has been identified as the person who murdered his own mother. Jihoon and Mrs. Choi gasped, paralyzed by the revelation. Jungkook. That woman is currently a fugitive. Meanwhile, Taehyung Hung is preparing a funeral for his mother, who died a brutal, tragic death. So I'm warning you, stop blaming my cousin. You have no idea what he has endured. Jungkook's voice was cold and flat. Jihoon and Mrs. Choi fell into a heavy silence. The objects found near the flower pots at Kim's aunt's house had been processed, and Yeojin's fingerprints were found all over them. The police had already released her identity to the media, labeling her a wanted fugitive. Officers were now stationed at the Yoon residence, ensuring she had no way to slip through their fingers. Jungkook. I know the past has left deep scars, and I know it's hard for you to accept him. But don't close your heart, your eyes, and your ears. No one is perfect. Don't look at my cousin with such deep-seated hatred, none of this was what he wanted. Jungkook. YN forgave him because she realized he was also a victim of his own family's toxicity. She didn't want to be just another person judging him for things out of his control. Jungkook. I hope you can finally understand that and just let them be happy together.